Hi, my name is Gerhard Schwantner. Welcome to Selling Power TV. Today, with the great pleasure of meeting with Andy Miller. He's the founder and CEO of Big Swift Kick. Hi, Andy.
Hi, Gerhard. Nice to see you again.
You have been selected by Selling Power magazine of one of the leading consultants in the field of sales, and you specialize in hiring. Tell me your point of dissatisfaction with what's going on with hiring salespeople.
If you hire the right people, you solve a whole lot of problems. And if you hire the wrong people, you spend a whole lot of time trying to train them and get them to do things that they're just not going to do anyways. That kind of led me to the whole research of what's going on. So the biggest mistake I made was I had a software company in the Netherlands. I hired somebody who interviewed well, had all the right jobs, her resume or CV, as they call it, said all the right things, and she should have crushed it, and she was a disaster. And I thought there's got to be a better way. So for decades, I've been searching out what is the research, how do people hire, what are the best practices, and the research and best practices have come a very long way. It's just never made it out to the mainstream.
Let's talk about the obvious mistakes. What are three mistakes that sales managers should avoid?
I think the biggest one is cognitive bias of thinking that we're better at interviewing and picking talent than we are. The second thing is we're not using the right tools, which gets us in trouble. And then the third thing is ironic as this sounds, is we don't understand the job. The job has changed. And so the criteria you think for the job is different. So when you get the criteria wrong, then your ad is wrong, and what you interview for is wrong, and the person you hire is wrong. And I'll give you a classic example of this. One of my sisters interviewed for this job. The ad was a management role. She got hired, and she called me later and said, "This isn't a management role. It's a clerk position." And I thought, isn't that such a great example of what we think the job is versus what it really is? And every time I say to somebody, show me your job description, and I look at it, it's nowhere near what the job really is. So you're kind of doomed to fail before you even start.
And what are the best practices?
Talk to your people about what the job is. I mean, that to me would be the first thing. You got to get the job right. What are those 3 or 4 critical things that the job requires? Because everything else is noise. And when you look at a job description, it's this big long list of all these things they need to do, when only 3 or 4 of those items are really 80% of the job. The second thing is you've got to use assessments, and it has to be the right kind of assessment. It can't be DISC, it can't be Myers-Briggs, it can't be personality, it can't be behavioral. It's got to be a multi-measurement tool, meaning it measures multiple things. It has to have predictive validation. And there aren't too many tools out there. I've looked at 39 different sales assessments, and there's only 2 or 3 that actually fit that requirement. And then the third thing is you need to do a structured interview to help eliminate your bias in picking talent. A structured interview means you've defined the questions. Each person who's going to interview them has their own set of defined questions. They've got a scorecard. They know the answers that they're looking for, and the good answers get a higher point. Poor answers get a lower point. And then you've been trained in the 10 different types of biases so that you're aware. I know my bias. One of my biases is if they're just like me. If they're just like me, I like them and I think they can do the job. That's not necessarily true. It just means they're likable.
How do you change that mindset?
First thing I'm doing is I'm working on a book. It's close to being done. Don't have a publish or release date yet. But what I've done is I've taken all the research and added and basically updated what everybody should understand about hiring. And then it's a matter of getting out and educating. So I'm going to have to do a series of webinars. We'll promote the book, a bunch of blog posts. And I think it's going to be baby step at a time. I think we're going to find people who are early adopters who want to do better. I mean, let's look at it. Would you like to hire better people? Because the people that I help companies identify using my methodologies and approach, they're always in the top 50%. So if you want to hire stronger people, we should talk.
So how can people learn more and educate themselves
Well, if they want to educate themselves more, they can go to my website. That's bigswiftkick.com/resources. If you go to the bigswiftkick.com/resources, I have a number of guides there, one on hiring, one on onboarding, one on interview questions, one on assessments, and they can download the guide for free and start educating themselves on what does science know that companies don't when it comes to hiring top performing salespeople.